Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. No computer fine, I'll finish my fanfic the old-fashioned way. I, 18F, am a fanfic writer. My father, 48M, hates that I write fanfics, but he specifically hates it when I write them on my computer and he often yells at me for it. So to not offend his sensitivities, I brought out my writing book and a pencil and continued my fanfic with over 5k words on paper. What he doesn't know is that when I have writer's block, changing the format I write on helps me a lot so the ideas are flowing. You can't stop an AO3 author, father, we always find a way to write even if it's inconvenient or tedious. Our dedication to our fanfics flows strong in our blood. He chose to fight a battle he cannot win. He may stop me from writing on my phone or computer, but there's no way he's going to stop me from writing on paper. He can't. My mother, 49F, wouldn't let him, and since I'm not writing on the computer, he has nothing to complain about. Story 2. The company won on this one, but now they must suffer with all of the feedback. I work for a tutoring company, which we shall call Blue. Well, this company employs a lot of tutors across many different subjects. Some for younger audiences, some for older audiences. For the younger audiences, the topics needed to be reviewed are in one long chain, so think of one main heading, lots of little subheadings, and in each subheading, lots of little topics. This works great for younger audiences because there is a limited number of topics and they all kind of blend together. For older audiences, those with more advanced topics, there are 4 units, each with subheadings, and within the subheadings are the topics. Nothing really goes together, so you have to either have the location of each lesson memorized, or be quick with your scanning ability. We tutors have asked for a search function so that we can find topics quickly, but the company kept saying to use Chrome's inbuilt find function. For those that don't know, this only works to find words on the screen. The way the tutoring service is set up means that Find will not find words in subheadings because they are not exposed on the screen. Once exposed, it will find them, but by then, what is the point? It felt like no matter what we told the tech company, nothing was going to change. So, those of us with busy lives, set up a list with all of the topics for each of the different state curriculums in a text or Word file and search that way. It took over 5 years. But we finally got a search function for the topics for older audiences. We finally got what we wanted. Everything happy now? No. The company gave us what we wanted but did it in the most annoying way possible. They complied, but were total evil monsters about it. Now we can only have 1 unit's subheadings displayed at a time. To move from unit to unit, you have to change units in a special way, and this can take up to 1 minute to do. There is a search function available, but it is total trash. To find a specific lesson, you have to type in the entire lesson name, no shortening it. So, equilibrium will not find equilibrium in aqueous solutions nor equilibrium constants. So thank you Blue for making our jobs just a little bit harder and much more painful for the clients. We totally appreciate it. Story 3. Don't think, just do. When I was a young Air Force staff sergeant at a deployed location, I correctly applied Air Force Instruction, AFI, to a situation that inconvenienced a large group of contractors. When my flight chief, a master sergeant, verbally reprimanded me for supposedly violating local policy, I pointed out that the local policy was unlawful and void on the basis that it contradicted AFI, which is the highest level of lawful order that can be given by anyone in the Air Force. Whereas local policy was an order given by a major, the AFI was an order that was given by a general. Thus, the local policy was an unlawful order insofar that it directed me to violate an order given by some superior in rank to the major. Now, these days, AFIs allow certain levels of command to waive certain AFI requirements, but they outline the level of higher command which must approve the deviation, and it's a lengthy process of documentation. It's not something that can just be waived willy-nilly by a commander because he or she can't meet the requirement, which is what the case was at this particular location. Anyway, I stood my ground and explained to Master Sergeant Z why I did what I did, using not only the AFI itself but thoughtful reasoning as to why my response ought to take precedence over the local policy, even if we were to ignore the superiority of AFI. He responded with, and I quote, "Listen, Staff Sergeant," he said, Staff Sergeant, in a very condescending tone, "when I give you an order, don't think, just do." Fast forward to the tail end of the deployment. I was summoned to his office to sign a document. As I approached, someone was exiting the room and held the door open for me, so I entered. That's when he started berating me for entering without knocking. He ordered me to exit the room, but this time, I was to knock and await instructions before opening the door. So I promptly turned around and, in verbatim compliance with his directive, I knocked on the door and waited to be told to exit. He flipped his shit and yelled about how I was being a smart-ass insubordinate, and I informed him that I was simply doing as he ordered me to do without thinking, as he had previously ordered me to do. Anyway, he issued a letter of counseling, LOC, which I delightfully rebutted by pointing out that I was simply complying with his orders. I got the LOC rescinded, and we parted ways after the deployment had ended, never to meet again. I'm now retired and enjoying life, but I would occasionally tell this story to my colleagues as a warning about abusing one's rank to win an argument and to ignore sound reasoning. Yes, there are times in the military when one must simply follow the orders that he or she is given, but those scenarios are usually restricted to combat and other emergency-type settings, which the one I described was not. Story 4. I can't use a shopping cart, but I can put some items on the checkout counter as you wish. TLDR at the end. Some background. About a year or two ago I did a lot of shopping at a grocery store for work. Sometimes I would need to grab items from the liquor store attached inside the grocery store. The liquor store operated as its own separate little store with its own checkout, but it was still owned by the grocery store, and you had to enter from inside the grocery store. When you enter the liquor store, there is a sign that you must leave your shopping cart outside. This normally makes sense as the liquor store is small and having people and carts all around would cause quite the traffic jam. On to the day in question. On my list for this shopping trip, I had a full load of liquor to get for the bar at work, and for a holiday party I probably needed around 15 handles of assorted booze. As I walked into the liquor store for this shopping trip, there was no one else around except for the cashier. Knowing I had a large number of items to purchase, I asked if I could bring my empty cart in and park it next to the checkout spot so I could load it with all the liquor bottles I needed to purchase. I was met with a very nasty "No, don't you see the sign?" I tried to explain the situation and how I needed many more bottles than I could possibly carry, plus there were no handheld baskets around for me to try and manage. The cashier wasn't having it and told me if I really couldn't carry everything at once, I could place some items on the checkout counter while I went to get more. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. I only needed about 15 bottles to cover the month's supply of booze, but I figured why not go ahead and get stocked up for next month. I spent about 15 minutes running back and forth from the shelves to the counter, placing more and more items down, taking up the whole counter. As I was doing this, a few customers came in and I watched the cashier struggle to work around my items in order to scan and check out the other customers. The look on the cashier's face was glorious as he had to work around a problem he created for himself. When I finally did check out, the cashier didn't have enough room on the checkout counter to scan and bag my items. So get this, the cashier then told me I could bring my cart in to put the bottles in to make room on the counter. I jokingly asked if he knew that carts were prohibited in the liquor store, but he didn't laugh at that one. After a few seconds of awkward silence, I went and got my cart anyways because it would have been a huge inconvenience to me to run back and forth from the counter to my cart. I genuinely understand the store's policy on this, but sometimes there needs to be exceptions to the rule. TLDR, I was told I couldn't use a cart to hold a large number of items in the liquor store, but was told I could put items on the checkout counter if I couldn't hold everything. I filled the entire checkout counter with bottles to the point the cashier wasn't able to ring other customer up. Story 5. I don't think your kid will like my candy lady, but whatever. Since there's only a week left of summer, I decided to take the kids to the local amusement/water park today. As I've gotten older, the rides have gotten a little tougher on me. In addition, my daughter tends to get motion sick rather easily. I don't like the way motion sickness pills make me feel. So, I always take a Ziploc baggie full of ginger candy along to prevent and soothe nausea. Today, I had chewy mango ginger candies, hard plain ginger candies, and hard lemon ginger candies. For those who've never had ginger candy, it is spicy. The lemon ginger is probably the mildest. The plain ginger is just plain hot. The mango ginger are sweet and spicy, but they also stick to your teeth like crazy. They're definitely an acquired taste. As we are standing in line for the log ride, I pull out my baggie. I choose a lemon one, as does my son, 13. My daughter, 12, asks for a mango one. While I'm fishing a mango one out, I hear the kid in front of us tell his mom that he, around 7 ish, wants some candy. His mom distractedly says she doesn't have any candy. The boy says, but she does. He turns to me and asks for one. I tell him I don't really think he'd like my candy. By this time, his mom has focused in on the interaction. As the kid starts to whine that, of course, he'd like my candy, his mom just huffs and says, "You've got a whole baggie. Can't you give him just one? Come in, don't be greedy." "Oh, you said the magic word there, lady." I say, "All right," and dig out a lemon one. I'm not completely heartless. That's when the kid whines that he wants mango. Mango is his favorite. I tell him lemon is better, but he insists on mango. I tell him it's kinda sticky as I hang it over. The kid rips it open, shoves it in his mouth, gets in 3 quick chews while my kids stare at him. Then, he actually starts to taste it and a look of horror comes over his face. He screams and tries to spit it out. He's jumping around and flapping his arms. His mom is panicking and asking what's wrong. He's screaming that it's bad and it's hot and he wants it out. His mom tells him to spit it out. That's when I pipe up with the very helpful, "It's really sticky. What's left is probably stuck in his teeth. He'll have to wait for it to melt off if he doesn't want to chew." The mom looks at me in disbelief and a shrug. Then she asks what in the hell I gave her son. "Probably should have asked that sooner, lady." I answer, "Ginger candy. It's good for nausea. I'm pretty sure I'd be dead if looks really could kill." We got to move up in line 2 spaces though because she whisked her kid off to a water fountain. I'd like to think the kid will think twice about demanding things from strangers. Plus it was entertaining. Overall, the kids and I counted it as a win. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.